Hello everyone, no respawns here, hope you're doing well. So I've been playing quite a bit of Sunless Sea recently, and it's a wonderfully weird game, and I thought I'd kind of make a wee video on it so you guys can enjoy the love and hopefully lose a lot of your free time like I have. So what is Sunless Sea? It's developed by a developer called Failbetter Games. These are the guys behind the browser game Fallen London, which you may have heard of. It's an incredibly weird and strangely written beast, but it is quite fun. It's also really, really addictive. So if you do try it out, I highly recommend maybe not using it at the office like I used to do, because it's very bad and you're going to get into trouble. So Sunless Sea itself, though, it's set in the same universe as Fallen London, which is great, by the way, because it just means the entire aesthetic and narrative is just really creepy and weird, which is fantastic. But it's a punishing survival and exploration game with a heavy narrative backdrop. It takes place in the Unterzee, in the vast underground chasm and ocean where Fallen London rests. So you actually start off in Fallen London. You start off as a Z captain. One thing Failbetter like to do in their universe is it's the Z, not the C. It's the Unterzee. It's all very confusing, but it's weirdly endearing, and I quite like it. It just adds to the kind of very strange story they have. But you play as a Z captain, and you get to choose your past. It's very similar, actually, to the Fallen London browser game. Your character's name, you pick a portrait of your character and how you'd like to be addressed. I always get to address and make sure people address me as captain, because I am the captain, not sir or lady or all that jazz. So the core gameplay takes place of you piloting your rather initially flimsy steamship around the Unterzee, visiting various ports, fighting off monsters, trying not to starve to death, trying not to run out of fuel, trying not to go completely mad, and trying not to eat your crew. So it's good fun. Now, alongside that, when you're docking at the ports, it's a bit more of a text-based adventure, which is cool. So it's like choose your own adventure. So you basically, dependent on what port you're at, what actions you've done, what secrets and items you have with you will affect what's available at each port. It also, often a lot of these tasks will have a chance associated with them, either dependent on one of the 5 stats, which are heart, I might have these in the wrong order, but whatever, mirrors, hearts, iron, veils, and pages. That is not the right order they appear on the screen, but it's okay, it doesn't matter. And depending on how high those are, it will affect how successful the task is. Failure doesn't mean necessarily bad, it just means that the task, the outcome will be different. In some instances, failure is maybe not good, but it's equal to succeeding, which is why I like this. It's very, very cool. It's very, very deep. So, I mean, on the Steam page, they boast over 350,000 words of narrative, so there is a lot of reading. If you do not like reading, sadly, you probably won't like this game. Now, the survival element outside of the huge amounts of reading, which I love, is very punishing. So as mentioned before, you can run out of fuel, you can starve. Now, if you're not used to survival games, this will be quite a punishing experience. But one feature they have beyond the survival is the scion function. So the idea being that you're meant to kind of lose your first captain, and you get to choose a scion. So you get to choose, you take things with you. Often it'll be, I always choose the money that my captain has, because it's so bloody hard to make money unless you know how to. But also, you basically choose what relationship you were to the previous captain, so you can get half the stats that you've gained, maybe ship equipment, and also there are legacies, basically. One of the legacies which links to the Scion legacy is, well, it is the Scion legacy, so you can actually develop a romance and actually sire a child. It actually gives the option to be an adopted child as well, so they give it's all about the choice, but then this then gives you 2 legacies, two attributes to pick, basically, so it gives you more choice, and this sticks with you throughout your captains. You also get legacy items as well, so completing certain rather large story elements will actually give you permanent boosts to your stats in the form of these books. I've got 3 of them right now, and I'm on my 3rd captain. I actually knew about these before I started playing recently again, so I just got those, because that way they're fun little storylets anyway, and I know how to get them quite easily. So my first experience with the game was actually a whimsical purchase in 2014. So this was pretty much just when it had left green light, and I think there was an early access on the website, and it had just entered Steam, and I saw it, and I was immediately drawn, purchased the game, and I think I racked up a rather commendable 60 to 70 hours before finally moving on to other things. The one thing Failbetter have done, which is really good, the game did take a little longer in early access than they intended. I think the idea was that the full release was late 2014, but it eventually was February. So they were a little bit behind, but not too much. But the good thing is they kept adding things. So the map started off very, very small, but they kept adding new stories, new areas, until eventually, on its full release in February 2015, it was an absolutely massive game. It's also, the great thing is it did receive quite positive reviews as well, which is great. I think it's on an overall a very positive on Steam, with over 3,000 reviews, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, Zubmariner only recently dropped, so it was October the 11th, so it's just over a week. It's the 19th right now, and I've been quite enjoying it. So backdrop on Zubmariner, when the DLC, this game was funded by a Kickstarter campaign, as a lot of games like this are, and this was the penultimate Kickstarter goal. So there was another one which I'll get to in a minute, but this was the penultimate one. So we've been waiting for this for quite a while. And patiently, but also hyped up a tad. If you hadn't guessed already, the Zubmariner update gives you the ability to actually explore the deep Unterzee in your own personal submarine. This takes the form of you actually converting your existing ship into a submarine. Now, to access the ability, it's quite straightforward. After installing the DLC, you get a quest, kind of a suggestion to go to this certain area, and you'll then begin the process of converting your ship into a submarine. Now, it's not a massively long quest chain, which I think is good, and can actually be sped up quite quickly if you just want to get into your submarine straight away through money. Another thing as well, because obviously they like to merge this with the legacy feature, any subsequent captains will actually not have to go through this quest chain again. I was actually a little bit worried at this. I thought maybe it might seem a little forced, like my next captain would kind of, get the ability to be like, oh, it's, like a skip cutscene button. But however, that isn't the case. They merge it quite well, so it doesn't feel like it's breaking the narrative, which is pretty cool. So it's a simple case. Once you're outside the port, of pushing your assigned hotkey, your ship morphs into a submarine and plunges you into the gloomy depths. Now, the deep Unterzee, as I said, is very gloomy, very, very muffled. What Failbetter have decided to do, which I really like, is they've muffled the music. So the music sounds like it sounds like you're basically inside a swimming pool, and you can just hear the kind of slightly muffled, echoey music. And it just kind of just really reinforces this feeling of being deep, deep underwater. Alongside that, it does obviously give you a new set of challenges. So the only source of light you have is the prow glim lamp of your submarine, and you actually learn of your surroundings through that, but also an active sonar post that pulses every few seconds. So it'll pulse every few seconds, and it will kind of highlight shadowy elements around you, and anything of note will actually kind of sparkle, and you'll get like a kind of notification noise. Alongside this, they've added an oxygen meter, which slowly drains. If you hadn't guessed already what's going to happen when this drains, as you die, it actually gives me slight panic attacks. Reminds me of the water levels of, well, Sonic the Hedgehog noticeably, but any game with water. So your screen starts to throb, and it's this drowning noise. So you have to be careful. To be honest, I mean, I've not really had an instance where I've nearly drowned, but I imagine because it does take a while for your ship to raise up, once that happens, I immediately just re-emerge from the sea, because it takes a while, and you can be maybe a little bit ballsy thinking, right, I've just destroyed one instance. I destroyed quite a tough enemy under the sea, and I went over to explore its corpse just as this started to happen, and I started to have a little bit of panic. I was like, no, because once death happens, death is permanent. That's it. This, alongside the darkness, there is quite one thing that I something I didn't realise would be much of an issue. So it's really dark, right? Now, how terror works is, I've mentioned, you can stop terror from increasing if you sail next to islands and have your lamp on. So it basically works for the most part, except in certain instances outside of the actual narrative, the text-based element, but it mostly works in the sense of light and how isolated your sailors feel. However, because you're underwater and you constantly have your light on, there's no extra source of light, your terror is constantly increasing. I think you can, if you're next to one of the few ports in the game, you can, and it's the lighter areas, it can not increase, but generally speaking, while you're exploring, it's going to be going up. Now, I've had instances where I've started one of my epic voyages from London, and I'm on the east side of the map, visiting the Chelenate or the Easterval or wherever, and I've not realised just how high my terror was, and for the return trip, I've had to be so careful, because if your terror gets to 100, your sailors will mutiny, and there is a very high chance that your career as a Z captain will end there and then. So overall, I've been really enjoying the experience. Not only is it great to get into the game after such a long time away, as I said, I got the game pretty much when it was right in early access, and so I didn't really play it when it was fully released because I'd already played it so much. But now that Submariner has been released, I've gotten right back into the game, so it's been amazing to play the base game again because they've added so much. They're always updating the stories. But also then to have this ability to actually explore under the sea as well is just fantastic. I'd also add that this doesn't feel like it's a separate area, in a sense of in the depths quests and storylets are merged with the main base game. This isn't like, the Fallout DLCs where Nuka World and Far Harbor, basically once you get there, they feel like completely separate entities. You will find yourself going from under the sea to various ports around, and, it merges very, very well. It doesn't feel like a separate area that you only visit once, complete everything, and never come back to. It's actually quite profitable to explore down there and go kind of, well, not spelunking, but I guess spelunking in whatever, exploring shipwrecks and things like that. It's really, really good fun. So, and also alongside that, the way it's the merging the above water, I guess, the Unterzee with the depths, is it adds a whole different level of kind of depth to the areas that you'd already experienced. Those of you who'd played had already experienced before. So one instance, I was sailing just in the complete open sea, and a lot of you know what this is, but I'd never seen this before, but a giant eye opened up beneath me. It scared the shit into me. As in, I was sailing above. I wasn't in my submarine at this point, and a giant eye opened up. The screen started shaking. My terror of my crew started to increase exponentially, and I squealed so loudly, and it scared me, and it was great. And once I, paused the game, changed my undies, all that jazz, I realised, oh wait, I could sail away, or I could hit that submerge button for a closer look. Now I did, like any reasonable and responsible captain of a tin can full of doomed souls would do. And what actually happened afterwards, I'll keep to myself, but it was very cool to be able to do that. And alongside that as well, so that's cool, but there's also been a great number of ports added to as well, and they're all dynamic and as varied as the ones above water. They are quite difficult to find initially, but once you kind of get used to how the game announces when they're nearby, they're quite simple, though it does involve kind of quite a lot of exploring. That's why I recommend maybe starting a new game if you haven't, or a new captain, because that way you'll find them as you're kind of re-exploring the above ground, above deep sea as well. The writing as always is superb as well, which is grand. It's very, very weird. It's kind of almost a little bit creepier, more so than the above water as well, because obviously how isolated it is. I especially like the wreck. It's quite a cool port of kind of like this corsairs who like to sink ships, and it's all very, very good fun. So the reviews on Steam so far for Zubmariner are quite positive, with fans of the base game loving the expansion. Now, my hope is that this does really, really well. Now, the reason being, as I'd mentioned earlier, Submariner was the penultimate stretch goal on the Kickstarter. The final top goal was actually an update called Castles in the Roof, which was going to add dirigibles, so the ability to actually make a big steam-powered blimp and fly up to the top. It's called the Neath. There we go. It's top of the Neath and actually kind of explore the roof. That would have been absolutely awesome. Now, I did a little bit of research before recording this, and I did find an IMA on Reddit from 6 months ago where they were talking about the game, and they said that as of that point, they weren't had any plans rather to do this update, and we're focusing completely on Zubmariner. I really hope Submariner does well, and hopefully provides Failbetter enough reason to begin working on the Castles in the Roof update, because I think it would just make a complete package, and it would just be a fantastic addition to an already incredible experience. Anyway, I hope you guys maybe found this interesting. Not really a review, just more of a showcase and kind of my experiences with a game I really, really like. I hope it encourages you to go out and purchase it. I'll have a link to the Steam page in the description, so definitely check it out if you haven't already. It's very, very good. Highly recommend it. If you like survival, if you like reading, if you like creepy, weird, and wonderful choose-your-own-adventure stories, you will absolutely love this. As always, follow me on Twitter at norespawns. I'll have a Fallout video up tomorrow, and then the day afterwards, Civilization 6 drops. I've got it preloaded. It's ready. It's awesome. I'm excited. Anyway, I love you all, and I'll talk to you lovely people soon. Take care.